Hi there, I'm Ian Warner, and welcome to another episode of A Friendly Chat About. I guess with the new title cards and the fact that I'm now looking at Kitty products means that you can count this as Series 2. Pretty quick turnaround then. I will probably be compiling Series 1 onto DVD as soon as I can find a distributor. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about my upcoming, very soon to be released, wargame Horseblade 20,000. Yes. Um, when I wrote Courtesans 20,000, it was a bit of a last minute thought add on to the other two settings which were already planned. That the vampire courtesans and the fantasy courtesans were already planned. I thought I'd have a good old go at Old Games Workshop and do my own thing with a kind of an opposite to their setting in terms of gender politics, but still as completely fucked up. Um, but yeah, it's Horseblade 20,000 is adapting, expanding on Courtesans 20,000, and it's funny that it should be that way around because wargames don't tend to be as developed in terms of their background as role-playing games, but by its very nature, Courtesans 20,000 is devoted to the quizzes, and although it obviously goes into the departments of the empire that they recruit from, but not in much detail. It is mostly about the quizzes, and I wanted to branch the world right out. I didn't quite branch it as much as I wanted to for reasons of space and budget and just generally getting something usable out. But I think I've done a good job in certainly putting the human side of the Empire of Woman across. And let's get delve right in then into setting and system. Setting. I have touched on this in my Courtesans 20,000 friendly chat about in the previous series. I will put a link to that below. But I will go into a bit more detail here. Clearly the central inspiration is the Warhammer 40,000 universe and its completely fucked up fascist theocratic state driven by a corpse in a stasis field. Only my version, the Empress isn't dead. She's not even that badly injured. She's just a hypochondriac in a time bubble. And yeah, the central sort of macho themes of 140,000 are replaced with a kind of a send up of what the kind of the MRA types think feminism is. It's essentially the sort of oh no's, the women's is taking over. It is that sort of cheesy and stupid, and I do hope that it is taken for the parody that it is. I have stated several times it is a parody. I do not genuinely think that this is possible. It isn't possible. It is extremely stupid. But I find it really funny trying to make it sound vaguely plausible. Because I mean, some of the 140,000 writers actually take it relatively seriously when they're writing, despite the fact that it is such a stupid setting. It is heavy metal, space, awesome, epic. dialed up to 11, and there's no sense to it at all, and it draws on a lot of typical. Um, yeah, and one of the things it drew on is Starship Troopers. Now, I am a massive fan of the Paul Verhoeven film. I saw the Verhoeven film before I read the book. I read the book. I wasn't as impressed with the book as I was with the film. Shoot me, geeks. Um, yeah, it's. I think the film is just typical Verhoeven. It's intense, subtle as an artillery strike satire. With there's no subtlety to it whatsoever. It is that silly. Um, they will fight and they will win, being the last words you see on the screen. Um, and I know it had number two, which was a really really bad sequel. I tried to do Predator when the tone of Starship Troopers has always been kind of like aliens, like massive hordes of unstoppable creatures, um, which it didn't work at all. Three nearly redeemed the series. I do hope they don't do another one. Actually, I do hope they do another one because it will be brilliant review material for the bad movie review crowd, and I could love to see them lay into it, whatever it turns out to be. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Back on to uh, the Empire of Woman. It is this nightmarish setting where straight sex is illegal outside of authorized breeding programs, which is kind of a reverse on the regular courtesan setting where homosexual sex is illegal. Completely, obviously, because you don't get breeding out of homosexual sex, obviously. But it's interesting to sort of flip prejudices around and indeed come up with a culture that is so alien in its morality to, or morality in open quotes, to even the craziest of our self-appointed moralists. It's it's not particularly subtle satire. The similarities to 40k are clearly there, but I think with this war game, I am starting to move away from 40k and bringing in other material that gets parodied. From the outset, I had different levels of genetic engineering that will be expanded even further with the Alien supplement, which will be eventually coming out. But we have the three gene grades. We have sort of genetic prejudice as well as the I hate using the word, but misandry of the setting. And also, I wanted to spread my wings a bit from just the quizzes and their direct foes, and in doing so, we have a wide variety of allegiances. The core book will only cover humans, but there is plenty of politics among the humans for you to have nice little fights over. I mean, the internal politics between the various different factions in the Empire, the fleet, the Guardians, who are the infantry, the administration, who do all the paperwork and have all the best guns because they can actually fill in the forms. The Psi division with all their crazy psychics, and yeah, it's been expanded a lot. We've got several dissident factions now as well. We've got the MLA, or basically imagine the suffragettes crossed with Al Qaeda, crossed with Fathers for Justice on steroids. That's them. And then we have Sethians, who are a resistance group who are trying to restore the long lost hypertech republic, the secular state that existed before the empire, that was driven by technology and scientific advancement. We have what's left of the corporations that bankrupted that state, the El Dalzio Incorporation. And we also have those sad people who actually believe in the powers of darkness and worship them. Yeah, my powers of darkness are not the chaos of Warhammer 40,000. Nobody knows if they really exist or if they just are manifestations of the psychic imagination of a bunch of saddos. I find that a lot more interesting than actually having a defined 4 gods, or 5 gods if you believe the propaganda, and different segments of followers. But yeah, that's the setting. The setting is, as I said, I'm trying to move away from just ripping on Warhammer 40,000, bring in a lot more science fiction cliches and silliness. Also create a setting that makes a bit more sense in that infantry most warfare in the galaxy. Testivo mentioned this earlier today, that warfare in the future, he can't really see there being much use for infantry. Well, I can, because there'll be anti-insurgency operations, small anti-insurgency operations, and the larger scale war will be sort of company level, with infantry escorting large vehicles trying to gain ground. That will be, or vice versa. So that's how I see infantry working. There isn't as much stupidity with the fact that combat is melee combat is more effective than shooting. That doesn't happen in Northblade. You try and be a ninja or a power armoured sword wielding type in this game, you get shot to pieces. Yeah, it's that sort of game. Anyhow, on that note, we shall proceed to the system. The system. It's a bit of a lazy thing for me, really. It's basically the combat system from History Files in general, ripped out, slimmed down, and simplified and rebalanced. That's what is the core of this system. It's a slimmed down version of History Files combat. That's how statistics work. You've got 3 statistics rather than the 6 you have in a role-playing game. You've got your aggression, which is coordination, being able to shoot, being able to spot things. Grit, that's general physical fitness, being able to run, being able to take damage, being able to dodge. And will, which is purely psychic ability. Well, psychic ability, and it contributes to courage, which is very interesting. We'll get onto that slightly later. Yeah, I didn't want, because there's only 3, I didn't want to use the strong statistics ability at all, because I had a feeling it would completely overpower the system if we had 2 statistics that didn't work like normal statistics. So a lot of things that normally would be sort of associated with strong or weak statistics have been changed to straight bonuses or rewritten slightly. Rather than good ats, I've called them proficiencies because I thought that sounded a bit better for a war game. I mean, it's all right for a role-playing game to call it a good at because it's lazy. They could be a wide range of things, but with war game, there's only a certain number of things that are useful, and as such, you have a list of proficiencies to pick from. You pick a proficiency from the list. There's 3. The proficiencies are directly linked to statistics. So you have one proficiency for each statistic, which is very much more balanced than the role-playing game where you can stack up on good ats in one particular associated one particular stat, which is okay in role-playing terms because focusing and specialising to that degree in a role-playing context is a lot more acceptable than it is in a wargaming context. Because in a wargame, it's all about the fighting, and if you're really good at various kinds of combats, that's giving you an automatic advantage over the other girl, which I didn't want to do. Innovations, anything that's innovative from the original system here. Poison has been renamed critical, because not all things that could potentially instantly kill you are poisonous. You have things like sniper rifles that hit you in the head. You have very high-powered lasers that can potentially kill you outright, acid, all sorts of things that are very lethal, but they're not actually poisons. So that's been rewritten. We have obviously got to deal with movement on the tabletop and distancing. Distancing is by paces. Paces, you decide what you want to set them to. My recommendation would be 1 inch, but whatever fits your gaming space. Movement's quite simple. You can move as many paces as your grit. That includes climbing. Climbing goes up in floors rather than paces, so a floor is defined as any way you could, a area off the ground where you can fit a model. So you can't balance them on stupid places that they're not going to balance on and call it a floor, but you can put them, if you've got the decent building, you can put them on different floors. Yeah, there are things like ignoring cover from higher floors and all sorts of bits like that. There's sprinting, which is a straight grip test to get more inches, but get more paces of movement, but you risk falling flat on your face. And other innovation, psychic powers have been completely redone. I didn't want a kind of a resource stat for psychic powers, so I rewrote them slightly. So it's a case of using your power successfully, no problem. Using it unsuccessfully or failing to stop an enemy psychic power, slightly more of a problem. You take what is effectively an injury to your will, or a trauma, as I call them, and as you gain traumas, you get to the point where, well, you've got all your will dots are full of trauma. You can't use your psychic powers aggressively anymore. You have to only can defend yourself. And then when you fail, take another trauma, and you fail the save against burnout, you burn out, which is a bit like feedback in Courtesans 20,000, a bit more brutal, a bit more simple. It's only D6 roll. It's not like a 2d6 table with a ridiculous number of intricate different effects. It's 1d6 and see what happens. Explosives have a set radius of 3 paces, and with weapon ranges, there is a special range called spray, whereby effectively you shoot in a straight line forward, and anything caught in that straight line gets hit, provided you hit the first target. So it's like for flamethrowers and things. It saves actually having a template, because I don't like templates. They get lost, they get damaged. If they don't get lost, they get damaged, and they're a finicky little piece of unnecessary complication. So there are no templates in this game. There are roster sheets which will be going up free on RPG Now and Wargames Vault, and Drive the RPG, obviously linked. Oh yes, before I wrap this section up, I thought I'd mention courage, or the morale system. You start play with a number of points of courage, depending on the will scores and some of the special abilities of your warband. These points go down as you suffer casualties, and they go down from other effects like enemies getting very good, beating you by very wide margins. Or, however, they can also be expended for rerolls. Thus, as a kind of, you put your force of will into rerolling your ability. So it's a bit of a sort of a management, tactical management complication, in that you have these points, you're going to lose them. Do you conserve them, or do you risk spending a few to get the right results to take your enemy down? Because once courage goes down to 0, unless you're a church warband, you just teleport out and game's over, you've lost. Whereas if you are a church warband, you go down to 0, all your warriors lose all sense of who's friend and who's foe, and it ends up getting rather messy. Anyway, that's the system. I will just do a little sum up and give you a general update on Okay, that was Horseblade 20,000. It shall be becoming available in within the week of this is uploading. Stay tuned for the on sale now video, and I'll probably see you next time talking about something of actual literary merit. I say, my novels. Half an